Hello and welcome back to my mapping series. I did skip a little bit of time, and basically what I did is I got rid of the bugged vegetation and replaced it all with the new kind of vegetation here. There might still be some bugs here, but yeah, I think most of it is now replaced and it looks quite well. So what will we do next? Well, quite easy. I want to next do some terrain editing, namely creating some rougher terrain that adds some cover for infantry. Okay, first of all, generally speaking, if this was a summer map, I would probably have different areas that have slightly different types of grass. Or even if it's an agricultural area like on Oglidov, you have, of course, you know, the yellow fields, the brown fields, and so on, you know, the empty fields, various types of grain or stages of growing grain or crops or whatever. In a snow map, this is not really the case, and this makes the map look relatively uniform everywhere, which is, of course, to a degree wanted. That being said, and I mean, as you can see, I already worked in with how I made the color map. I already worked in quite a bit of local variation here with how the snow looks like. But what I want to do now is create some fields that will look slightly different, which will have different color of snow, and they will also have more rough terrain, meaning a more varied height map, so that players can use that to advance tactically. Now, some of them will remain relatively flat like this. I mean, it's not completely flat, obviously. It's still a height map. It's not a desert map. But there won't be this kind of micro variation. And this is how I will do it. First of all, I will plan which of the fields which areas will be a bit different. And I will do that by painting on the color map, because I generate that one anyway in GIMP. I don't really give a damn how it looks like in the editor, so I can just paint on it a bit and then transfer that to GIMP easily. And for that I will just take the normal snow texture here. I think that's the one I use, yeah. But I will paint mode color only, and we'll take the color texture. Now the question is, did I even set a proper color texture for this one? 1 second. Well, you know, let's paint completely red, just to mark. At 100. Yeah, let's leave it at size 5, and let's see. So over here there's already a lot of vegetation, so this whole area, and what is the field I will define by using these erosion lines, which I want to keep mostly intact. But just as an example, over here, due to the erosion lines, there's already enough kind of variation here in terms of texture and so on. So that would be one where I don't want to do that. But let's say over here where the trenches here start, we have to be a bit careful that we don't paint over any of the things here that we made, the craters, I mean. And let's start here. Paint, of course, in detail texture mode. So we'll just make the outline of that field. This is so I can see later where I did that, you know, where I changed the height map, so I can then make a nice texture change in GIMP. So this will obviously not be on the final map in any way, shape or form. Okay, so this will be the first field that will have that variation. Then I'm thinking about making this here, which is this road here is one border and the erosion the other. Yeah. And let's see, there's an erosion line that is relatively faint, but it is there, and it also, if you look at the undergrowth, there's variation of undergrowth here, so this is the other border of that field, which you can barely see due to the snow. There's also overgrowth variation that goes along here that I want to keep because that's automatically generated. Let's get rid of that so it's not in the way. Or affects performance of the editor. Put it over there. So that's the next special field. Let's call it the next rough area. So, and this also, together with this area here and the erosion down here, and this rough area means that maybe infantry will be able to sneak along this axis into the trench area. Okay, now over here, I want to make one more rough area in front of the. Either the question is, do I make it here or here? And I think I'm going to make it on this side because I'm already emphasizing this flank quite a bit. So let's lean into that. This is where the damage starts. So let's do it like this. Rough area on the next one. Okay, and the rough areas, okay, so that's the ones in the first sector actually. Now also quite importantly in the second sector, again I want to emphasize this flank here. I want people to use this area here, and by the way, little spoiler, I have already planned for this forest area to make that a bit more unique as well. So I really want to draw people over there. So the next rough area will be around here. Keep it away from the trenches so it doesn't fuck with the placement there. One second. Let's switch overgrowth on for a second. I mean, just, yeah, okay, it's pretty clear where that starts. And then it goes here, along this path. That will be the border of it, which already has, of course, some height map variation now. Switch overgrowth back off. Then kind of feeling this area here as well, starting over here along the trench. Yeah, didn't fuck that up. Maybe keep that little, but anyway, I'm gonna delete this anyway, so okay. And just do it like this, so we have another rough area here. And the final sector, I don't want anything like that over here, but I could see this flank. I kind of want people to go up here. We do have a trench there, so this could be kind of the long route around that the Russians could use to get into the final thing. I don't want to keep this here relatively open, so it looks really daunting, but you could have a little sneaky area over there for flanking. So do it like this. This will be a small one, obviously. Keep it away from the trench. Alrighty. So what we will do now, anything else? No, the rest. Oh, well, actually, maybe. Again, you can see while doing this, I'm kind of gravitating towards the edges. So yeah, let's not do it here. I don't want to be don't want it to become too predictable. And this already looks pretty cool here. So okay, let's save this. So it shows up in the grid with texture mode, and then we will use the randomizer tool, which I normally don't use much, but for something like this you can use it. But you need to try it out first, so you know how it acts. Because while it is random and that's what you're using it for, you don't want to overdo it, and you need to kind of... We will practice outside of the combat area, just to see what the effect is that we are trying to achieve. Generally, I want to rough up the height map a little bit, so that it doesn't look like there's massive rocks under the snow or something like that. That would require texture change. But at the same time, I want people to, at least by proning, and maybe in some cases even by crouching, be able to take some cover in these fields or in these rough areas. This is, by the way, something that I only started doing relatively recently. I think I first started doing that on the as of yet unreleased French map. I didn't do it on Motovsky Bay because the terrain there was completely automatically generated basically, but On the French map I did that in exactly the same manner, where I designated some areas as rough and then also changed the texture there to be more green, and there I also changed the undergrowth a little bit, so there was a bit higher and denser grass there, so it looked like, okay, this area is maybe a bit more unkempt and this is where we can take cover. And then the height map also facilitates that, so the infantry knows there we can hide, even though, you know, usually grass doesn't render at long distance, but in this case it's the exception, so to speak, because even though the grass doesn't render at long distance, the hills do. Okay, grid with texture mode, that's there now. Let's see. First of all, we're going to, where's the random? I never use that. Ah, here we go. Random tool. The brush strength relatively low. Let's try this out over here where nobody will ever see it. And this is what it does. So obviously we don't want to do it like this, but what we have to do now is figure out how much do we smooth it before it becomes pointless. So okay, we have to do the brush strength for the smooth a bit higher here. And let's say, I need to get a feel for this. So let's say we put it like this. Stop. Let's try this out with the camera. So this is the new area. Some of them at the edges are still a bit too sharp. But see, this is the effect I was after. So it's not a massive change in the way it looks like, but it looks a bit more rough. It's a bit exaggerated compared to what you would probably see in real life, obviously. But, well, I mean, the the height map resolution in this game is obviously also not what you would see in real life, and in real life there's such a thing as micro elevations that soldiers can use to hide. Oops, fella. And this is basically what we are going for here. So it doesn't really look like hills as much as really the terrain being rough. And yeah, let's do this for the areas. Do I speed this up? Nah, you know what, fuck it. Start with this one over here. Let's color within the edges, children. Mapping, hard work. Here we go. Ah, this looks terrible, I know. Let's do it a bit smaller for this little nook here, even though I don't think that will make a big difference. And here we go. Let's smooth that out. The 7 brush strength size for now. Get that down again, get that down again. And as I said, the snow will look slightly different here, and by that I don't mean the actual snow texture. It's still going to be the same snow, but the color will be different. Maybe brighter, maybe darker, we'll see. This is something that I will do in GIMP. And this is generally if you change the structure of the terrain. Let's do the strength a bit bigger. If you change the structure of a terrain, it is usually kind of a good idea to also change the texture. It's just like an artistic thing where it makes it look more natural. Just gonna smooth that out. This might still be a bit too extreme. In that case, we will smooth over it again. I mean, that's not the big problem here. What you want for now is kind of a good baseline, and then we will look at it from the soldier's perspective if it's still too extreme, because it's often kind of hard to judge if you look at it from above, you know. Yeah, that's probably too extreme, but let's check it out after it's completely, at least the most extreme spikes are gone. Smooth it all over. Happy little accidents and so on. Okay. Yeah, see, this is probably too extreme, but let's, for argument's sake, yeah, let's see. This is not what we want, because now basically, it looks like hills. So what we do here is make brush size actually a bit bigger, so it averages out over a bigger area. And then moving it out. Maybe strength a bit bigger as well, so it goes quicker. Don't think that changes anything about what it does, it just makes it go quicker. And I think, did we mess this up? No, okay. Let's thought for a second, maybe. I think, no, it's actually pretty cool. So here comes our soldier, and already we have a little dip in the ground here, where you can take cover and carry on. And another one here. And see, now it doesn't really look like big hills or anything anymore, but instead like the kind of variation in terrain that makes it a bit easier to take cover from long range fire. Over here. Okay. Yep. One second, over here, yeah, that's a bit too sharp maybe, but like this. Okay, and it's a bit roughed up. And here the trenches seem to be still untouched, that's nice. Same with these craters. Okay, so the rest of that I will speed up for obvious reasons. See you later. Okay, for the future it helps if I actually record the thing that I want to speed up, but okay, sorry about that, but you haven't missed much. So, this is the last thing, and as you can see there's now this, yeah, let's keep that, who cares. So, there's now this kind of micro variation here up the hill. Okay, what I will do next is maybe a bit more interesting. I will retexture these areas, so look forward to that. And here we are back in GIMP, where I have exported the color map here, and this will be added to our big file. You remember that from the beginning, I hope. We'll just put that in the background here, hide map basic, and we will put that over here. A new layer, gonna call that, wait, that was wrong. Let's just put it on the background so it lines up automatically. Yep, that's probably better. Okay, new layer. Yeah, no, it lines up. Let's call that color rough. Color rough marking. So let's move that up a bit, just so we can see where our. So this is where our rough areas are, and what I will do now is use that to, let's see. We have, if you look at that, I will switch that off now. We have several kind of snow textures here. So we have the color highlight, which I think is basically the background at this, and then we have color snow put over there. So what we can do now in order to make this look different is add another snow texture, or what we can also do is use the disturbed snow texture, this here, which we use normally for that special snow texture that we have where the snow is disturbed, and put that over there. And I think that's what we're going to do. I will first of all copy that one, the snow disturbed one, make a new layer out of it. So now all the snow is disturbed, which of course we don't want, but this we will call color rough. And then we will add a layer mask, completely black, so we can't see it. And then we'll switch this back on, but keep the layer mask, keep the layer mask selected, and then we will just by hand paint inside these areas. And for that we will paint completely in white using the paintbrush, and we use some of the weird artistic pens here, like what is this? Cell 1, yeah, why the fuck not? Let's do it like this. Make it a bit smaller, so it's like this, and we will not see what is actually going on here if we do it like this. We'll move, for now, we will move the color rough up a bit. It's still see-through, so now when we paint, as you can see here, or not, considering how much YouTube fucks with the quality of the videos, but as you can maybe see here, let's show the layer mask. We have now painted a different texture over that. I will probably change that a bit more so it stands out more. Yeah, generally speaking, there's not much you can do in terms of color variation with snow, but I might make this a bit brighter. But first let's paint it. That's the first thing we can do. And over here, same deal. It's kind of a leggy brush, isn't it? I think might be the setting for it or something. Obviously the red will later be deleted. Over there, then over here. Paint all over that, and then the middle too. And oh yeah, this one, can't forget about this one. So as you can see, it does look a bit different. Well, you will see it a bit better when I actually delete these red lines here. I will move these back up because obviously these aren't, or these probably aren't completely the final textures, but let's move the color rough outline or whatever we call it back here because we don't need it for now. And here we go. And if you look closely now, it does look a bit different. Don't know if it will make a huge difference, but together with the different height map, it should at least give the idea that this is kind of a different type of terrain. Same thing over here. Okay, so let's save the whole thing and then export it. And then I will see you again in the editor. Alrighty, so I don't know if you can see this, but this area is the rough one, and as you can see, I hope in YouTube it does look different now in terms of texture. This is the normal one, and this is the rough one. So in this case the rough one is a bit brighter. I can easily change this later, the textures are still not final, just so you get an idea of how I would approach something like this. And here we go, that's the more rough area. And yeah, the same over here. So, that was the first thing I wanted to do. Next up, I want to flesh out the forest area here a bit more. Now, IRL, I will take a little break now, but I think I will keep the video going. So, yeah. Anyway, that's the next thing to do. And, yeah, let's do that. Alright, so what I want to do here is make this area a bit more infantry friendly, and I'm going to do that by putting down, for one thing, a lot more of these improvised defenses. For those of you who maybe forgot about that, so the idea is this is obviously the first sector, which is very heavily fortified, and then the third sector is also very heavily fortified with prepared defenses here in Shinichino. This one here is between the two, And this is supposed to look more like a fallback position. The Germans fell back from here, and now they're kind of defending themselves more in an improvised manner from inside this forest, which of course right now I'm not rendering from this forest. So because of that, I don't want the big continuous trenches in here, but these kind of fortifications that are also used, for example, on Oglidov. And also there's going to be a field aid station. Maybe I'll actually make more of those to really hammer the point home. Like they brought their wounded here, you know, down these paths where you can see that the snow has been disturbed, and then they got shelled when they entered the forest here, so there's a lot of wagons and so on. So what I wanted to do now is add more of these trenches and also add more of the little foxholes, you know, the ones where one person fits in. And I hope that in this forest area people will actually use these foxholes a bit, and because other than that there isn't amazingly much cover. Of course you have bushes in a few cases, of course, but these are not like major bushes, which is why I placed so many of them. And you have the trees, but they are the trees with out branches down below. So because of that, I hope that people will use these foxholes and trenches a lot more. And that is my plan for now. After I'm done with that, what I want to do is a bit more major project over here. I won't place any trenches over here, but here you can see there's this erosion line here that leads down here, and this erosion line here, and also kind of this over here leading down. And I kind of want to lower the terrain around this area here, around these erosion lines. So here and then, so kind of lower the terrain so that these two erosion lines are a bit joined up. Maybe also up until this one here. I haven't completely planned that out yet, and I want to make like a swamp area here with dead vegetation and mud and more of this material, which of course has this kind of undergrowth. So it looks a bit different here, like a more swampy, like a lot of water is accumulated here. There will be no snow and so on. So that's another thing I'm planning to do to make this area a bit more interesting. But first, let's do the trenches, and for that, of course, I'm going to speed it up, and this time for real. Alright, so those were a few successful hours of mapping. We now have a swamp area here in the forest and a bunch of more, what's it called? And a bunch of more trenches. So the next step will be moving up here and putting more trenches here, as well as implementing the tunnels in this area. And yeah, then I'm mostly done with the static updates, and then we'll wait if we can get our hands on the needed statics to finish up the major static work here, you know, the bunkers here and the, what's it called, the basement. Anyway, hope you enjoyed it. As always, thanks for watching and have a nice day.